At a family dinner in my house, my parents announced, "We're giving this house to your sister." So I gave them 24 hours to pack up. The morning sun was streaming through the kitchen windows of my Victorian townhouse in Georgetown when my life turned upside down. I was making my signature cinnamon French toast, the recipe my grandmother had taught me in this very kitchen, when I heard my mother's voice echo from the living room. "Delaney, sweetheart, could you come in here for a moment? We need to have a family discussion." I should have known something was wrong. Sunday morning family discussions never meant anything good. Setting down my spatula, I wiped my hands on my apron and walked into the living room of my home. My home. The one my grandparents had left specifically to me in their will. The one I'd been paying the mortgage on for the past 6 years, while my parents lived here rent-free. The scene that greeted me made my stomach drop. My parents, Dominic and Pamela, sat rigidly on the leather sofa. My older sister, Brittany, was perched on the armchair like a queen on her throne, her husband, Kevin, standing behind her with his hands possessively on her shoulders. My younger brother, Connor, was slouched against the fireplace mantel, eyes glued to his phone screen, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. "What's going on?" I asked, picking up my coffee mug from the side table. "I've got errands to run this afternoon." My father cleared his throat in that authoritative way he always did before dropping bad news. "Delaney, your mother and I have been discussing the future. We've made an important decision about what's best for this family." "Okay," I said slowly, warning bells already ringing in my head. My mother reached over and squeezed Brittany's hand, beaming at her like she'd just won the lottery. "Since Brittany and Kevin are expecting their third child, and they're simply bursting at the seams in their current place, we've decided that they should have this house." The words hung in the air like a bad smell. I blinked once, twice. Surely I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "It just makes sense," my father continued, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You're single, no children, no prospects on the horizon. You don't need 4 bedrooms and a backyard. Brittany has a growing family. They need the space more than you do." My hand tightened around my coffee mug. "But this is my house. Grandma and Grandpa left it to me. It's in their will." Brittany leaned forward, and I caught the flash of triumph in her eyes. "Actually, they left it to the family with the understanding that Mom and Dad would decide who ultimately deserves it. And let's be honest, Delaney, you're never going to have kids or settle down. This house deserves to be filled with laughter and children." Each word was a carefully aimed dart designed to hit every insecurity I'd ever had. "That's not what the will says," I managed, my voice shaking. "I have the original documents in my office upstairs. They specifically left this house to me with the provision that Mom and Dad could live here as long as they needed." My mother sighed dramatically, like I was being deliberately difficult. "Delaney, don't make this harder than it needs to be. We've already spoken with our attorney. The paperwork for the transfer will be finalized by the end of next month." Kevin stepped forward, all business school confidence and entitlement. "We're being more than fair about this. We'll give you 90 days to find a new place. That's 3 months, plenty of time." The room started spinning. This couldn't be real. I looked around the room at the faces of my family, searching for any sign that this was some kind of twisted joke. My father's expression was set in stone, the same look he'd given me when he decided I should study accounting instead of art. My mother wore her martyr face, the one that said she was making a great sacrifice for the good of everyone. Brittany looked triumphant, finally getting what she'd always believed she deserved. And Kevin stood there like he'd just closed a successful business deal. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You're trying to take my house. The house that's legally mine. The house I've been paying the mortgage on every single month for 6 years. And you want to give it to Brittany because she's pregnant again?" "She's building a legacy," my father said. "Creating the next generation of our family. That's what Grandma and Grandpa would have wanted. They always valued family above everything else." "Then why did they leave the house to me?" I shot back. "If they wanted Brittany to have it, they would have said so." You were always Grandma's favorite, Brittany said bitterly. She spoiled you. But now it's time to think about what's actually fair and what's best for the family as a whole. Connor finally looked up from his phone. Yo, this is messed up. You can't just take someone's house. Connor, stay out of this, my mother snapped. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does, Connor muttered. You made me come to this ambush. I told you it was wrong. My mother's face flushed. You weren't supposed to say that part out loud. Wait. I stared at Connor. You knew about this? For how long? He had the decency to look guilty. They've been planning it for about a month, made me promise not to tell you, said it was for the good of the family unit. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. A month. They'd been conspiring behind my back for a month. Show me the paperwork, I demanded, turning back to my parents. Show me where it says you have the right to take my house and give it to Brittany. My father's jaw tightened. We don't need to show you anything. The decision has been made. Your mother and I are the heads of this household, and you will respect our authority. The heads of my household? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're living in my house, Dominic. I pay the mortgage. I pay the property taxes. I pay the utilities. You contribute nothing. We raised you, my mother said, her voice rising. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head for 18 years. This is the least you can do for your sister. The least I can do? My voice cracked. I've been letting you live here rent-free for 6 years. Do you have any idea how much money that is? Kevin cleared his throat. Our attorney says we have a strong case based on family intention and the ambiguous nature of generational property transfers. The courts tend to favor families with children. Your attorney is lying to you, I said flatly. Or you're lying to me, because there is nothing ambiguous about my grandparents' will. It's crystal clear. Brittany stood up, smoothing down her maternity dress. Delaney, why are you being so selfish about this? We have 2 kids already and another on the way. Little Hayden and Sophia need a yard to play in. They need a house with character and history. You just need a place to come home to after work. You could get a nice modern condo downtown, closer to your office. It would be so much more convenient for your lifestyle. My lifestyle? I repeated. You mean my sad, lonely, childless lifestyle? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I looked at each of them in turn. My parents, who'd always made it clear that Brittany was the golden child. My sister, who'd never heard the word no in her entire privileged life. Kevin, who saw everything as a transaction. And Connor, who'd chosen self-preservation over warning me. You know what? I said quietly. The room went silent. You all have 24 hours to get out of my house. The silence that followed my ultimatum was deafening. For a moment, nobody moved. Then my mother let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. You can't be serious. I have never been more serious in my entire life, I replied, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. This is my house. I have the deed. I have the will. I have 6 years of mortgage payments in my name. You have exactly 24 hours to leave. My father rose to his feet, his face turning an alarming shade of red. Now you listen to me, young lady. No, you listen to me for once. I cut him off, years of pent-up frustration finally breaking free. I have supported you both for 6 years. I never once complained about you living here rent-free while I paid every single bill. I never said a word when you took over the master bedroom that was supposed to be mine. I kept quiet when you turned Grandma's sewing room into your personal office. But this? Trying to steal my house and hand it over to Brittany like I'm nothing? That crosses every single line. Brittany jumped up, her face contorted with anger. You can't kick Mom and Dad out. Where are they supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, I said coldly. Maybe they can move in with you and Kevin, you know, in the house you currently own. Or maybe all of you should reconsider this little scheme of yours. Scheme? My mother's voice rose to a shriek. How dare you? We're trying to do what's right for this family. By stealing from me? We're not stealing anything, my father bellowed. We're making a decision based on need and fairness. Kevin stepped forward, trying to play mediator. Let's all calm down and discuss this rationally. We're family. There has to be a solution that works for everyone. There is, I said. You drop this insane plan and my parents find somewhere else to live, because either way, they're leaving my house. You wouldn't really do this, my mother said. But I could see the uncertainty creeping into her eyes. You're just upset. You'll calm down and see reason. I'll see you all tomorrow, I replied, with moving boxes. Connor pushed off from the fireplace. For what it's worth, I think they're wrong. I told them this was a terrible idea. But you didn't warn me, I pointed out. I know. I'm sorry. They made it sound like it was all going to be handled diplomatically, like they'd actually talk to you first instead of just this. He gestured at the tense scene. Brittany turned on him. Whose side are you on? I'm not on anyone's side, Connor said. But trying to take Delaney's house is messed up, and you all know it. She's being dramatic, Brittany insisted. She's not really going to kick Mom and Dad out onto the street. Watch me, I said, then turned and walked out of the room before I said something I couldn't take back. I went straight to my office and locked the door. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my laptop and started making calls. First to my cousin Jade, who worked as a real estate attorney in Baltimore. Then to my Aunt Sharon, my father's sister, who'd always been more supportive of me than my own parents. They what? Jade practically screamed into the phone when I explained the situation. Delaney, that's insane. I helped Grandma and Grandpa draft that will. There's no ambiguity whatsoever. The house goes to you, period. Your parents have absolutely zero legal standing. Can you come over? I asked. I need backup, and I need someone who can shoot down their legal claims with actual facts. I'll be there in an hour, Jade promised. And I'm bringing the original will documentation. Let's see their fake attorney argue with that. By noon, my house had transformed into something resembling a war room, but this time I had my own army. Jade had arrived with a briefcase full of legal documents. Aunt Sharon and Uncle Leonard had driven in from Annapolis. My cousins Tyler and Naomi showed up for moral support, both of them outraged when they heard what my parents were trying to do. I knew Pamela played favorites, Aunt Sharon said, pacing my kitchen. But this is beyond anything I imagined. Trying to steal your house for Brittany? Dominic should be ashamed of himself. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Connor standing there again, this time without our parents. Can we talk? He asked. I stepped aside to let him in. He looked around at the gathered family members and winced. Wow, you called in the cavalry. What did you expect? I asked. They're trying to steal my house. I know. He ran his hand through his hair. I called Great Aunt Dorothy last night. You know, Grandma's older sister? She told me the whole story about how specific Grandma and Grandpa were about wanting you to have this place, how they knew you'd take care of it and love it the way they did. She also told me this isn't the first time Mom and Dad have tried to manipulate inheritance stuff. What do you mean? Apparently, when Grandpa died, they tried to contest the will because Grandpa left his vintage Corvette to Uncle Leonard instead of Dad, claimed it should stay with the immediate family. Great Aunt Dorothy shut that down real quick. Aunt Sharon nodded grimly. I remember that. Your father was furious that the car went to Leonard. Never mind that Leonard and your grandfather had restored it together over 5 years. Dominic just wanted it because it was valuable. The doorbell rang again. This time it was my parents, Brittany, and Kevin. They stopped short when they saw the crowd in my living room. What is this? My mother demanded. Some kind of intervention? More like a reality check, Aunt Sharon said, stepping forward. Dominic, Pamela, we need to talk about what you're trying to do here. My father's face darkened. This is none of your business, Sharon. When you try to steal from my niece, it becomes my business. Jade stood up, opening her briefcase. I'm Jade Morrison, Delaney's cousin and a real estate attorney. I have the original will right here, along with all supporting documentation. Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell, I need to inform you that you have absolutely no legal claim to this property. Any attempt to challenge ownership will result in immediate legal action. Kevin's confident facade cracked slightly. We've consulted with our attorney. He says we have grounds based on family intention and equitable distribution. Then your attorney is either incompetent or you're misrepresenting what he told you, Jade said coolly. The will explicitly states that this property goes to Delaney Hartwell with the provision that Dominic and Pamela Hartwell may reside here. There is no transfer clause, no family discretion provision, and no ambiguity whatsoever. She pulled out a document and held it up. This is the original will, signed and notarized. Would you like to see where it says, and I quote, "We leave our home at 2847 Dumbarton Street to our beloved granddaughter, Delaney Rose Hartwell, who has always cherished this house as we have?" The room fell silent. Brittany's face had gone pale. Furthermore, Jade continued, Delaney has been the sole mortgage payer for 6 years. She has the deed in her name. She pays all property taxes and utilities. You have been living here as guests, not tenants, which means she can legally ask you to leave at any time. My mother turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. Delaney, how can you do this to us? We're your parents. How can you try to steal from me? I countered. I'm your daughter. We're not stealing, my father insisted, but his voice had lost its earlier certainty. We're making a family decision based on who needs this house most. A decision you have no authority to make, Uncle Leonard interjected. Bob, I love you. You're my brother-in-law. But this is wrong. Mom and Dad left this house to Delaney for a reason. Brittany stepped forward, her pregnancy giving her courage. This isn't fair. I have a family. I have children who need space and stability. What does Delaney have? A career she's obsessed with, and an empty house she rattles around in alone. Wow, I breathed. You really believe you're entitled to my house just because you chose to have kids? I'm building something that matters, she shot back. What are you building, a bigger bank account? Connor spoke up. Brittany, shut up, seriously. You're making this worse. Don't tell me to shut up. No, he's right, Aunt Sharon interrupted. Brittany, your jealousy is showing, and it's ugly. Your grandparents left the house to Delaney. Accept it and move on. The argument was spiraling, voices rising over each other, when Tyler suddenly held up his hands. Wait. I have a question for Bob and Pamela. Everyone turned to look at him. If you're so concerned about what's fair and what's best for the family, Tyler said, why haven't you been paying Delaney rent, or contributing to the mortgage, or covering any of the utilities? My father bristled. That was never part of the arrangement. Actually, I said slowly, a memory surfacing, when Grandma and Grandpa left you the option to live here, they specifically mentioned in a letter to me that they expected you to contribute financially. They said they didn't want me to be burdened with your care. My mother's face went white. That's not... They never said that. I have the letter upstairs, I said. Jade, is that relevant? Very, Jade said, making a note. It establishes expectation of financial contribution. Naomi was looking at something on her phone. Aunt Pamela, Uncle Dominic, didn't you guys just buy a new Audi last year? And didn't you go to Hawaii for 2 weeks last summer? Uncomfortable silence. How exactly were you affording that while claiming you couldn't contribute to household expenses? Naomi pressed. Connor's eyes widened. Oh my God, you've been saving money, haven't you? All this time Delaney's been covering everything. You've been just... saving everything? Our parents exchanged a look that told me everything. How much? I asked quietly. How much have you saved while living in my house rent-free? That's none of your business, my father said. Actually it is, Jade interjected. If you've been living here under false pretenses, almost 400,000, Connor blurted out. I saw the bank statement on Dad's desk last week. They have $387,000 in their retirement account. The room exploded. You have almost $400,000 saved, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. And you are going to kick me out of my own house? We deserve a comfortable retirement, my mother cried. We worked hard our whole lives. On my dime, I shouted back. Do you have any idea how much money I could have saved if you'd been paying even a quarter of the expenses? I could have renovated the kitchen. I could have taken vacations. I could have saved for my own future. Instead, I've been supporting you while you hoarded money for yourselves. Brittany looked stricken. Mom, Dad, you told us you were struggling. You said you couldn't afford to help us with childcare because money was tight. We are not having this conversation here, my father said. Oh, we're definitely having this conversation, Aunt Sharon said. Dominic, you lied to your daughters. You've been living off Delaney while saving hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now you're trying to steal her house? What happened to you? Kevin had gone quiet, his lawyer brain clearly working through the implications. Pamela, Dominic, did your attorney actually say you had a case, or did you just assume you did? More silence. You never talked to an attorney, did you? Jade said. You just thought you could bully Delaney into giving up her house. We are her parents, my mother said, but she sounded defeated. She should respect us. Respect is earned, I said. And you lost mine the moment you decided to steal from me. Brittany was crying now, but I couldn't tell if it was manipulation or genuine distress. I can't believe you're doing this to us. We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other, Connor said firmly. Mom, Dad, what you're doing is wrong. If you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. Connor, my mother started. No, I'm done being in the middle of this. Delaney is right. You need to leave. Uncle Leonard stepped forward. Sharon and I can offer you our guest house temporarily while you figure out your next steps. But only if you drop this nonsense about taking Delaney's house right now. This instant. My mother looked at my father, then at Brittany, then back at me. I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes, trying to find an angle, a way to spin this back in their favor. Delaney, she said, her voice taking on that syrupy, sweet tone she used when she wanted something. Can we please talk about this privately? Just you and me? No, I said firmly. Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of everyone. My father's face hardened with that stubborn pride I knew so well. Fine. You want to play hardball? Keep the house. But don't come crying to us when you're old and alone and realize you threw away your family for some bricks and mortar. Threw away my family? I laughed bitterly. You tried to steal my house. You've been using me as a free meal ticket while saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. When exactly have you been there for me? We raised you, my mother protested weakly. You did the legal minimum required to not be charged with child abandonment, I shot back. And the second I had something you wanted, you tried to take it. That's not love. That's not family. That's exploitation. Brittany wiped her eyes. I can't believe you're being so cruel. I'm pregnant, Delaney. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Your pregnancy doesn't entitle you to my house, I said. Buy your own place like Kevin's always bragging about his business acumen. Figure it out. Kevin's face flushed. This is ridiculous. Brittany, let's go. They can have their little self-righteous meeting. We don't need them. Actually, Jade said, before you go, I need to make something crystal clear. If any of you attempt to file any legal claims against this property, if you make any attempts to harass or intimidate Delaney, or if you make any defamatory statements about her to other family members or on social media, I will personally ensure that she countersues for harassment, emotional distress, and legal fees. Is that understood? Kevin opened his mouth, then closed it again. Smart man. My father turned to Aunt Sharon. I suppose you're proud of yourself turning the family against us? I'm turning no one against anyone, Aunt Sharon replied calmly. You did this to yourselves. You got greedy and forgot that actions have consequences. When do we need to be out? My mother asked, her voice small. You have until this time tomorrow, I said. You can come back the day after with movers to get your belongings, but I'll be here to supervise. Take only what's actually yours, nothing that belonged to Grandma and Grandpa. We wouldn't, my father started. Yes, you would, Connor interrupted. Because you've already proven you think you're entitled to things that aren't yours. The next few hours were a blur. My parents left, stiff and silent. Brittany and Kevin followed, with Brittany shooting me one last hateful look before they drove away. Connor stayed behind, looking exhausted. I'm sorry, he said once we were alone in the kitchen. I should have told you sooner. Yeah, you should have, I agreed. But I get it. They're good at manipulation. They've had years of practice. Are you really okay with them being out of your life? I thought about it. Honestly, I feel lighter already, like I've been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there. Jade came in, packing up her briefcase. They're not going to challenge this legally. I could see it in Kevin's face. He knows they don't have a leg to stand on, but I want you to document everything, just in case. Change your locks tomorrow. Consider getting a security camera for the front door. You really think they'd try something? People do strange things when they feel entitled to something, Jade said. Better safe than sorry. True to my word, I had a locksmith scheduled for the next afternoon. My parents moved out that evening, their car packed with suitcases. They didn't say goodbye. The months that followed were a revelation. Once the shock wore off, I started to see just how much my parents' presence had been weighing on my life. The house felt different, lighter, more mine. I repainted Brittany's old room that they'd been using as storage. I finally renovated the kitchen with Grandma's vintage tile backsplash that my mother had always hated. I planted tomatoes in the backyard garden that Grandpa had built. But the real changes went deeper than home improvement. 3 months after the confrontation, Connor called me. You need to know something. Mom and Dad have been selling Grandma's stuff. The china set, some of her jewelry, those antique books from the attic. They've made about $30,000 so far. They what? I was seeing red. Those things were supposed to be passed down through the family. I know. Aunt Sharon found out when a piece showed up at an estate sale and someone recognized it. She's gathering evidence. When confronted, my parents' excuse was predictable. We needed the money after you threw us out on the street. The fact that they had $387,000 in savings and a comfortable condo apparently didn't matter. The real bombshell dropped 6 months later. Kevin's business went under after an audit revealed some creative accounting practices that weren't exactly legal. Brittany somehow blamed this on me, claiming the stress of our family rift had distracted Kevin from his work. Never mind that they'd initiated the legal challenge, not me. Never mind that Kevin's problems started before our confrontation. My parents tried to reconcile, not because they felt remorse, but because they wanted something again. This time, it was access to family gatherings. Aunt Sharon and Uncle Leonard had made it clear I was welcome at every holiday and celebration, but my parents weren't invited until they made amends. We miss you, sweetheart, my mother said when she finally called. Can't we put all this unpleasantness behind us? Have you acknowledged what you tried to do was wrong? I asked. We were thinking about what was best for the entire family, she insisted, still not getting it. No. You were thinking about Brittany at my expense, like you've always done. My father got on the phone. Delaney, this has gone on long enough. We're your parents. Family is supposed to forgive and move forward. Family is also supposed to not try to steal from each other, I replied. When you're ready to have an actual conversation about what you did and why it was wrong, call me back. Until then, I have nothing to say to you. I never got that call. But what I did get was something better. Connor and I became genuinely close, bonded by our shared experience of being scapegoated by our parents. Aunt Sharon and Uncle Leonard became the parental figures I'd always needed. Jade and I had dinner every week. Tyler and Naomi were regular fixtures at my house for game nights and barbecues. I even started dating someone I met through work, a genuine, kind man named Andrew who thought my decision to stand up to my family showed strength, not cruelty. One evening, as I was hosting a dinner party in my beautiful dining room, Surrounded by the family I'd chosen rather than the one I'd been born into, I looked around and felt complete peace. The table was set with Grandma's good china, the pieces my mother hadn't managed to sell. The walls held photos of people who actually loved and respected me. The house was filled with laughter and warmth. Connor raised his glass. To Delaney for teaching us all that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no. And to Grandma and Grandpa, Jade added, who knew exactly who should have this house. As everyone clinked glasses, I thought about that terrible Sunday morning when my world had turned upside down. I'd thought I was losing my family. Instead, I discovered who my real family was. Sometimes giving someone 24 hours to leave isn't cruel, it's self-preservation. Sometimes standing your ground isn't selfish, it's survival. And sometimes the family you build is stronger than the family you're born into. My parents still live in their condo, funded by their substantial savings and the money they made selling family heirlooms that weren't theirs to sell. Brittany and Kevin struggled financially after his business failed, but eventually bounced back. They bought a modest house in the suburbs, smaller than mine, I'll admit, but theirs. I stayed in my Georgetown townhouse, the one my grandparents knew I would love and protect. Every time I walk through the door, I remember their faces, their love, and their trust in me. And I know I made the right choice. Because at the end of the day, this house isn't just about bricks and mortar. It's about respect, integrity, and knowing your worth. It's about understanding that love without boundaries isn't love, it's exploitation. And I refuse to be exploited anymore. So yeah, I gave my parents 24 hours to leave my house, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.